Hey Tigers. So you're here in Hawaii, so you all have a DEROS, and you all maybe have some questions about what happens next, what happens when I leave here. And on today, I'm here to talk about the assignment process, and I'm going to give you some tips and tricks to maintain as much control and have as much say as possible in transitioning out of here onto your next assignment. So the first step during your assignment process will occur at the 1 year mark from your DEROS, approximately. This is when your DEROS option RIP will be generated and sent to you by the CSS. This is going to be your first chance to make any changes that you have or want to make to your current assignment, such as extending or submitting for an IPCOT. And the third option with this is to maintain current DEROS. The bottom line is to have a plan at this point. Several airmen decide after they make a choice on their DEROS option RIP to change it later. Either they maintain DEROS and then decide they want to extend, or they'll decide to extend and then want to cancel it. So none of those things are impossible, but they're going to require a lot more paperwork, a lot more approvals, and it could be a general pain. Changing these things can also affect your assignment a little bit. This is the point where AFPC will take this information and start figuring out allotments for the next year for your PCS cycle. So you may not get the assignment of choice and be stuck with an assignment you really don't want. So basically just have a plan at the 1 year mark and stick to that as much as possible. So now that you got your DEROS option RIP and you're thinking about your next assignment, the next thing to think about is retainability. In order to receive an assignment from an overseas location, you will need 12 months retainability. This is important to understand in the event of if your data separation is, let's say, for example, March of next year, 2021, and your DEROS is actually December of 2020. If you do not have retainability for a full year, and that's like in that situation, your DEROS will actually flip to your date of separation, and you will actually be extended here and then separate upon that. Now, again, this is another part of the DEROS option RIP. Have a plan, because if that cycle passes, your window for an assignment passes past your DEROS, and as you approach your data separation, you decide you want to stay in and get an assignment, you're going to get not your choice of assignment. So again, it's all is predicated on have that plan a year out. Retainability is important and something to consider. So now I'm going to talk to you about the assignment cycle and how that works. So a lot of people are under the impression that overseas and CONUS assignments come out at the same time and it's all the same thing, and it's not. The actual overseas assignments will come out the quarter prior, followed by the CONUS assignments. And I'm going to show you some screens here in AMS where you can find this information specific to your DEROS and your moving schedule. So if you go into here to AMS virtual via the portal, under enlisted assignments, assignment lists, and down the bottom are the two cycles. You have your overseas cycle schedule and your overseas returnee. The first one we're going to look at here is the overseas returnee. So this will be for CONUS assignments, and this is done by your DEROS. So for example, my DEROS is July of 2021, the top line here. So what this is telling me is that the list for available assignments, which we'll talk about later, will be available to me on 13 January. Preference due date, that's talking about your dream sheet, so that needs to be updated by the 22nd, but I would suggest having that done by the 20th, just to be safe. And then 12 February, you should expect your actual assignment to find out where you're going. So let's keep these dates in mind. For me, for CONUS, is the list will flow 13 Jan. Now we're going to look at the overseas to overseas listing. So again, looking at my, this is the report no later than date dealing with your future assignment, but for argument's sake, we're going to call this the DEROS. It's the same, roughly. It should line up close within that quarter. So I would be this third line here, July of 21. So for November, so as you can see, the overseas list will actually come out first. So we will discuss in a few moments here about lining up your dream sheet and how to, if you don't want to get an overseas, how to limit that as much as possible from happening. So now we discussed a little bit of the timelines associated with your assignment. Now we want to figure out where you're going, right? Everybody wants to know that. I'm going to share some more screens. So the first place we're going to go to here is, again, we're going to go back into AMS, click AMS, and this screen will show up. Now down here, again, under listed assignments, there is a tab called enlisted authorized. Now what this list is going to tell me, by AFSC, all your allocations of where you're allowed to go. So I know we have predominantly a lot of linguists in this unit, so I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to 1 and 3 golfs. For skill levels, we'll just leave that at all. Just say, well, let's make that. I'll leave that at all. Get authorizations. And what this is shown is by your skill level, the places that you are allowed to go. And as you can see, there's more than just Fort Meade and Hickam on here. One thing I did notice, though, the 5 level spot has a spot at Yokota where that disappears as a 7 level. Thought that was interesting. So anyway, yeah, make sure you have a good idea of this is the first step in actually trying to align your desires or your dream sheet, so to speak, is understanding where you can go. When you go to fill out your dream sheet, it'll actually list every single Air Force base out there. And that does not mean that you're eligible to go to them. So understanding where you are eligible to go under this AFSC with this skill level will do you a service in deciding your next choice. All right, so now we're on the step right before the dream sheet. So when it comes to assignments, if your dream sheet, whatever's on your dream sheet prior to that, remember we looked at that window for assignment flow earlier on. If you're to the left of that, it doesn't matter what's on your dream sheet. It's not going to be considered. What's going to matter is once you enter into that cycle, that's when the dream sheet will be taken into consideration. So when those assignments flow, you need to go take a look at those lists, because in those lists there will be 3, 5, 7, whatever it is, jobs available during your DEROS window for your AFSC and your rank. They're the only things that are going to be available. So the dream sheet is kind of a misnomer. It's not a dream. It's basically what can you deal with that's on the sheet. So you need to look at the sheet for the list and rack and stack your preferences based on that, since that's available. So I'm going to show you where to look at that right now. Again, you're going to go back into AMS, unlisted assignments, and assignment lists. Equal plus, there's a bunch of stuff. I would just encourage you to get in here and just play around and see. So so equal overseas, returnee, CONUS, mandatory movers. This is where they're going to have the list for the CONUS assignments, and this equal overseas will be the overseas to overseas assignments. So I'm going to click on this. Now the window is currently closed, so we're not going to get a chance to look at the actual map. There's not going to be a list here, but basically it's going to show. So 14 October here is where it's going to show next. It'll generate a list of bases and assignments. When you look at those, you're going to go into your dream sheet and update those. Just a little word to the wise on if you're deciding you want to go overseas from Hawaii, so that will be an overseas to overseas assignment. There is a nice little bonus you get for that. It's called COT, which is basically it's a free flight to your home of record. You have a couple options again with that. You can choose to use it during your PCS time, or you can choose to defer your COT. If you choose to defer it, you need to make sure it's on your orders that you deferred it. And what that allows you to do is use it during your next assignment. So for example, I came here in 2018 of July from Korea, so I earned COT. I deferred my COT flight. So now I have the entire 3 years of while I'm here in 324th to fly home for free. So just something to be aware of during this process. So now it's about time. Your window's coming up. You're about to enter your assignment window, and you want to decide where you want to go. There are ways to have as much control of that as possible. Just know the Air Force will line up Air Force needs with your desires as much as possible. So understanding this process well can help you get to where you want to be as far as an assignment goes. So we're going to take a look at a dream sheet right now. If you log into your virtual MPF under self-service actions, you will click that, which will bring you up to this screen here. and you're talking about assignments. So you click Assignments, that'll bring you to this screen. From here, top link, Assignment Preference. This is where you open up your dream sheet. I'll have to log into MPF for the 15th time. Let's try that again. So here's your assignment preferences. So in this case, you want to view or change. So down here you can see it's separated by stateside here and overseas here. General rule of thumb, if, like I said, the Air Force is going to do needs first. So if there is a severe shortage of people needed in Yokota for 1N3s and nobody volunteers, you can get non-voled, but the chances of that are low. So the general rule of thumb is if you don't want to get another overseas assignment out of here, you leave this blank. If you want to try for both, fill them both out. Nothing wrong with that. But again, base that off your enlisted authorized, and you also need to base that off another list, which I'll talk about in a few moments. So another thing to keep in mind about these overseas assignments, let's say, for example, you want to pick, I know they're not authorized, but just for conversation's sake, you pick Alaska, Aviano, Ramstein, and then you make 5 or 6 selections, and then you decide, well, if I don't get any of those 6, I'll just go to Korea on a remote. Like, this pertains more to 1N4s. Just keep in mind, short tours will actually go straight to the top of the list. So it doesn't matter if you put Korea number 1 or number 8, it's going to be number 1, and that's what the Air Force will look at. So today I discussed with you a lot of parts that could be confusing if it's your first time for assignment process. Anybody that's PCS once or twice pretty much knows a lot of this stuff. So if you are one of the people that this is your first time and you are confused, please ask your supervisor, ask your flight chief, run it up your chain of command within your flight, ask a buddy, but verify if you ask a buddy. Ask questions. Basically, if you ask the questions and get the answers you need, you will have more control over where it is you go from here. I got pretty involved with just clicking around in the system and read some stuff, and I've always gotten my number 1 or number 2 choice, and that's not because I'm great. That's because I work the system, so to speak. So if you know how to understand the list and when they flow and how to line up your dream sheet with that, more times than likely you'll be pleased with your assignment. And just one more thing I may have forgot during the dream sheet. Like I said, if your desire is to go overseas or bust and you do not want to return stateside, leave your stateside portion of your dream sheet blank. That's not a guarantee, but it's the best chance you'll have. This whole entire process is giving yourself the best chance. There's no guarantees in this game. And of course, I didn't cover everything. There are other situations to consider when PCSing, and we didn't cover that. So if we didn't talk about a situation you're going through, like I said, talk to your supervisor, route that through your flight, and we'll get you some answers. If anybody has any questions, I'm also available. Feel free to reach out. Thanks, Tigers. Have a great day.